Hey guys, welcome to another video. I thought I should kind of diversify my content a little bit and bring cars into my channel as much as I could. And today, thanks to BMW, I've got this car for the weekend. So it's the BMW 320d LCI. So it's a facelift version of the current G20 3 Series that you get. I think if you go on the website, I don't think you can actually get the pre-facelift on spec, but there's an abundance of them on the used market for an unbelievable price. But this is the facelift version of the current 3 Series. So the lineup starts with the Sport. It goes with the M Sport, then the 340i, and then of course the M3 and the M3 Comp. But don't quote me on this, but I think the M3, you don't get the M3 in the UK, but you get the M3 Competition, which is like now the flagship version of the M3 Performance. But this is like the kind of the mid-spec of the 3 Series lineup. So you get a lot more of the M styling. So if you was to go into the dealership now and get the 3 Series and you're looking for like the standard spec, which is the Sport, you don't get the M Sport styling as you would if you was to go further up the range. This is the diesel version. You can get the 320i in Sport, the M Sport in petrol, but this is the diesel. So I'm guessing this would be more for the people that are doing the long motorway drives, and it gives you that very, very compelling good MPG that you might not necessarily get with the petrol variant of this car. But the major difference between this and the previous G20 pre-facelift is the rear bumpers are a lot more pronounced than what you previously got with the 3 Series. It looks a lot more aggressive, especially from the distance, with that rear diffuser. Not sure if the camera can pick it up, but you can see that rear diffuser kind of sticking out a little bit more. You get the twin exhaust pipes, and also the rear spoiler, which you don't get in the Sport version. The Sport version is like the entry level. You don't get the M Sport package that comes with it, but this twin spoke alloys that you get in the BMW with the red calipers really gives it that aggressive look. And if you can see from this side as well, I'm not sure if you can, but you see how pointed out the rear haunches are in comparison to the pre-facelift. It just looks a lot more aggressive than what we had before. And the most notable difference as well for me when I looked at this car compared to the pre-facelift is the front bumper. It points out a lot more now compared to what you had before. You've got this rear diffuser as well, and here with the black tile grille, those two kidney grills. I'm glad they haven't gone to town with the grille like they have with the 4 Series, where it kind of extends its way down to the bumper. But you do, however, get that with the M3. So the M3, the notable difference between this and the M3, if you're just looking from the distance, is that two kidney grills point a lot more aggressively, and they kind of go further down the grille, so it gives it that much more unique style. And you get these BMW LED lights, which are really nice, especially in the night time as well. And it's something that now you kind of see across the BMW range. But if you also look just here on how aggressive that rear haunch is, in comparison to like the Sport version of this car, it really does point out with this car. And also you have to remember this 3 Series came out in 2019, so it was a big hit, especially with the main competitors at the time, with the Jaguar XE, rest in peace. It doesn't exist anymore now, but out of production. But this 3 Series does kind of stand out. Obviously the main competitors for this is like something like the Audi A4, which obviously has gone out of production, and also the Mercedes C-Class, just people walking past. But the Mercedes C-Class, the major difference between this and something like the Audi A4, you also have that rear wheel drive as standard, and it's got that, and it's maintained that ingredient. That's what made the BMW 3 Series so synonymous with, that compact exec saloon. And it stands out a little bit more with, if you're comparing this to like the Audi A4, which is front wheel drive. The car does sit slightly bit lower than what you get in the standard car, and what you get in return is something that is a lot more sporty, a lot more firm, especially with the suspension being especially the suspension sitting a bit lower, the car does give you that firmer ride comparison to like an Audi A4. The Audi A4 is a bit more of a comfort car. This is a bit more for someone that wants to enjoy the ride going into the different aspects. But if we go into inside, so if you're going on the inside, there's not much that's changed. It's obviously got the Harman Kardon, you got the M kind of trick there a little bit. Also, you don't get the memory foam seats either, but you get these nice leather seats. And one thing I've always said about BMWs is that their leather seats across over time, especially in the used market, they don't tend to look well over time. But these, however, do look slightly worn. But considering the car is, it's had its time, it's not been too bad. But the major difference between this car, if you go on the inside, a lot more cool here, but you can see immediately the upgrade to what you had before, where it had the dash sitting here, and then the kind of head-up display, or sorry, not head-up display, but you know what I mean. The interior is a massive upgrade to what you had previously here. One thing I'm glad they haven't done is go all to town with the interior, in terms of having, you see quite similarly with what Mercedes do, where they go full screen across, the kind of like a hyper screen is what I believe is what they call it. BMW have kind of kept it professional, they've kept it subtle, and it to me it looks miles better than what they had before. Do you let me know if you do prefer the facelift version of this interior or the pre-facelift? I'm also glad they kept the swivel wheel, the iconic BMW swivel wheel. They've got obviously the touch points here to kind of direct you to where you want to go, and they've I was going to mention this. In the pre-facelift, you had the standard gear shift. Here you've got this little kind of gear selector here. Not sure if that's something that people prefer, but it is what it is. You also get some nice buttons, not a lot compared to like the Audi A4. If you've been in the pre-Audi A4, I know they've changed the Audi lineup now, because now the A4, okay, one second. Yeah, guys, I had to quickly cut that bit short because I had to move the car. But we're now in the interior. So this is pretty much what you get across BMW's whole range. And obviously the Neue Klasse, the next version, the next era of BMWs will be coming out in 2027, where you have a slightly different interior. But what you get now is pretty much similar to what you even get in the 5 Series, the X3s, and even if you go up to the X5s and the 7 Series, it's a pretty much similar interior with a couple subtle differences. So comparison to this in the G20 pre-facelift, you had a slightly different interior. You didn't have this BMW curved display going across the interior. You had something slightly bit more conservative than what you have now, and it's kind of something that Mercedes started this whole trend with the curved display when they introduced it in the A-Class, and it's kind of now being reinvented with BMW, Audis, and even now you see even in some of the newer Peugeots, they have something like an iteration of their whole curved display. They have it, but in terms of the actual the steering wheel, you don't get the sport steering wheel in the standard car. You get a much more basic version of their steering wheel, but this is like the standard one. I know you can get the flat bottom ones with some specs I've seen on the used market, but across the range, especially the M Sport, this is pretty much what you get unless you spec it differently. You do have the heated steering wheel. Again, that's an optional extra. This car also comes with the heads-up display, which is very good and very useful. But again, it's an optional extra. You don't get that even when you go to the standard M Sport. You don't get that either. I'm glad also that BMW have stuck with the buttons. A lot of manufacturers now are going full digital with the buttons on the steering wheel. It's not even buttons, to be honest with you. It's a touchpad behind some flimsy buttons, but I'm glad they've gone physical, which makes the usability of this car a lot better than what you have in the Mercedes C-Class. The Audi A4, however, does have similar, but the B9 and the B9.5s are slightly older now. Obviously, Audi have updated the cars now with the Audi A5, which is now the Audi A4, which is a bit confusing. But this is pretty much what you get in the 3 Series. In terms of the actual build quality, it's really good. It stood the test of time. In comparison to this, like the Audi A4, they're very close. Very nice soft leather across the interior. It's only when you go further down you start to feel a bit of cheeky plastic they've put under, but where like the key touch points are, this is as good as it gets. This is my standard driving position. I'm like 6'1" ish, I hope, and this is, you know, where I would sit in terms of the space at the back. Of course, it's not as spacious as something like the Audi A4. Though being a rear-wheel drive car, you also have to remember the rear differentials will obviously be placed at the back. The power goes to the back, so you do lose a slightly bit more room at the back, but not too much to make it a factor for you. But what else? I'm trying to think. Yes, the swivel wheel. I'm glad they have actually stuck with buttons, even with the sat nav. I know, you know, one thing that I have to say this is the actual sat nav itself. It's great. The issue is there is way too much things on here. Like, even I don't need this much stuff on this car, but they've gone all to town with this. Like, they have included as many things as you possibly could on this sat nav. Good thing is, the key things are, you get the swivel wheel, which works pretty intrinsically. You get the shortcut buttons here as well, which allow you to skip and get to certain parts of the infotainment system that you need. So if you want to go to the nav system, you go there. It also shows you the map, and also having a heads-up display is crucial. But one thing I would say is, I don't think the heads-up display works if you connect to the Apple CarPlay. But it's an expensive option. But if you are looking for a 3 Series and you're trying to have the best of the best, this is the sort of stuff that you need. Some nice little cup holders here and there, but I will talk about the engines and how the car drives once we get onto the road. But in terms of the standard, the build quality to me sits above Mercedes. The A4, I'm not sure about the A5. I haven't sat in the A5, but the A4 is very good as well. But this to me is just that level above. It's got that sophistication, but also they haven't compromised themselves too much. They haven't gone full hyper screen across the dash like you see in certain car manufacturers. Mercedes, they've gone very conservative. They've kept it very clean, and I think this is a very well made interior. However, in terms of obviously drive, we'll get onto that as soon as we hit the road. So I think as standard, you also get the reverse camera, which is really good. You also get reversing assistant. I'm not going to try that in this very busy car park, but just off the bat, I know obviously I'm reversing. It does feel that extra bit sporty compared to like the Audi A4. The A4, you have to kind of think of it as like more of a comfort car. It's not trying to be a much more of a sporty variant of, let's wait for them, not much of a sporty variant of the 3 Series. It's trying to give you something of a different experience compared to what you get in the 3 Series. The 3 Series is more for the guys that want to enjoy driving a little bit more. The A4 is more of a comfort car, but this, I've got it in comfort mode, and it just feels very it does exactly what you assume it will do. It feels comfortable. It feels very planted on the road, especially when you're going around corners. The car does feel like, you know, it feels a lot more in control than what you get in, you know, other variants like the Jaguar XE. Obviously, I know Jaguar going through a much more difficult time now. We're not really sure the future of Jaguar, but this was something that the BMW kind of had a similar competitor to. The Jaguar XE was something that was a lot more sporty compared to these other rivals, but this, you know, just going around the corners, it feels planted. The suspension feels a little bit more firmer than what you do get in compact saloons nowadays, but this just feels like every bit comfortable than your daily competitors. Ignore the sound, the noise that it's making. I think that's the speed warning stuff that I can't seem to actually know how to get it off. But if you can actually see across the dash there, you get the heads-up display. It's not the full heads-up display that you get in certain BMWs. I've seen like in like the 7 Series, it's a proper heads-up display. This is like the very basic version of the heads-up display. But yeah, just we'll keep this on on camera. There seems to be an accident. I'm not entirely sure where I'm supposed to go. There's police officers on the other side. The heated seats are really nice in this car. You get some heated M Sport seat belts, but I'm not entirely sure where I'm supposed to go. Am I meant to go around? Because they haven't cornered it off. They've seen me pull up and nothing has happened. There seems to be an accident here. I think I'm just gonna go round this way and then come back. But once I put my foot down, it just picks up. Like, the car is very commanding in terms of the gearbox. It's very responsive and it picks up speed really, really well. This is the sort of car that you would drive on the motorway. Obviously, being the diesel, you get very good MPG comparison to like the 320i. I'm not entirely sure in terms of the actual figures, but I saw on the press sheet, it's got about 45 MPG average is what you'd expect to get on a car like this. How you actually end up achieving that is something that I would obviously have to test, especially when I've got the car for the weekend. I'll be able to see whether or not you can actually get that level of MPG on a car like this. But being a diesel, you know exactly what you're going to get. Very good performance and very fuel efficient comparison to something like the 320i. One thing I also would say with the diesel, I know there's a lot of stigma with diesels. The A4, I drove the A4 TDI 35. The diesel variant of that car, it felt a bit laggy. It wasn't as responsive as this car was. If you're looking at something like the A4, I probably would recommend like the 40 TFSI. You get much more stronger performance in comparison to the 35. But in terms of the actual performance of this car, it's really good, especially in the used market. The prices of these cars is very competitive comparison to something like the Mercedes C-Class, which is slightly priced higher. This, 3 Series, you can get it at 31, 32, depending on the sort of mileage you're looking at. And I've seen some even drop to 29 on the used market. Being brand new, you're going to pay slightly a bit higher. But in terms of comfort, you can't really go wrong with a BMW. And that's what they've done over the past, 20, 30 years. It's their longest standing car. They can't afford to go too crazy and try and reinvent the wheel, because you end up compromising the key ingredients that what made BMW 3 Series such an iconic vehicle. So that's what's so interesting about the neoclassic era of BMWs coming in 2027. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that version of the 3 Series. I know the iX3 will be coming out next year, so that will give us a bit of an inkling to what they might do. But in terms of the actual car itself, this version of the 3 Series, this G20, it's all you need. I know there's the 340i xDrive, that's like the M Lite, and if you really want to go all performance, that is a really good car to choose from. You get the M3 as well, which is even crazier than what you have in the 340i. But if you're looking for a standard daily, the 320D is really good. The 320i is what I would pick, because if you're not going through motorways all the time and you're not doing longer drives, you don't really need a diesel. Diesels are a bit of a dying breed, as you know. They they're not going to be existing for much longer. And I think this is like a late example of a diesel 3 Series that you might get. I know they used to have the 340i in diesel, 340D sorry in diesel, but those don't really exist anymore. This is much more of like the last hurrah of them. The next versions of the 3 Series will most likely be hybrid with a touch of electric influence on that, and that's kind of like where the world is going. But you know, this car here, you get the 330s, which is the hybrid, you lose the boot space in that, but this is a perfect all-around daily. Sorry Merc fans, but the BMW for me just sits above the Audi and the Mercedes. Comfortable to drive, it does everything you need it to do, and the performance is there. The gearbox just picks up. I'm trying to control myself a little bit, but the gearbox just picks up instantly. There's no lag within that. With the A4, I realized there was a little bit too much lag in terms of when you want to put your foot down, but this just goes whenever you want it to go. And that's it, guys, for watching, and we'll see you soon.